And, yeah, I don't know. I remember, like, God was really big in my life, and so was the devil, better believe. Um, Possibly even bigger than God when I was a kid. Trust, because I was afraid all the time. And I used to ponder why you're supposed to fear God. Um, it's weird because God has this, like, genie kind of feeling to him, and Satan always seems so much more real because when you're a kid, everything's scary, and you don't know how to deal with your feelings of guilt or your feelings of sorrow or suffering. Or some adults don't even. Many adults don't even. Still, I don't know how to deal with guilt. Still, kind of do, but not really. Um, so it's just a really interesting thing, Like, I believed in God. I just didn't know what God was. I had no concept, no idea of what God was. I was like, God, God. Like the dark side manifests so much, And you start to see God in small. You start to see God in like the good things that happen, kind of almost like for instance, like when I was a kid, like I think I lost my key. And I kept praying. I was like praying to like find my key or something like that, some little thing. And I was like, and I finally found it. I think. And I was like, God answers prayers. So it's like this moment of like, you know, I don't know. It's probably something deep there, right? Yeah, about God, this idea. I think I just set up a nice dichotomy right there, or not dichotomy really, but a nice. I guess that's how God and Satan thing is kind of pulled together. But um, and then God can be brought into the deal, or not brought in. You don't bring in God, but you know, the light of God. You can bring that in to yourself, into your life, into whom you are, whomever you are, and through that um, kind of faith, and through that um, questioning and praying and devotion, start to alleviate the things that are kind of associated with Satan in your life, I guess, as satanic things. But back to when I was a kid, or sorry, my fractured fam. I think I'm done with that actually. Yeah, my mom and dad just weren't vibing spiritually at all. As when I was a kid, they weren't vibing, period, but they weren't really vibing spiritually, and it's probably like the basis of the whole schism between them. I call it a schism. I think I've always called it that. At least until as far as I knew what the word meant. But I learned. But so yeah, I grew up in this kind of fractured spiritual place, and um, you know, I grew up. I had those ideas of God and this idea of Satan and a lot of guilt. When I was a kid. Like for instance, like I got introduced to pornography when I was very young. I was, I don't know, first grade or something like that, and I got really quickly fascinated with it. Um, I was like, oh my god, cause I searched pussy.com. I thought pussy was a funny word or some such. Or no, girls.com. Because you're on the internet in school, and you're like, I just want to search random words and search girls.com, and so, of course, that's going to be used to promote trafficking, or not trafficking. I'm sorry, it's the trade. I haven't really revisited the idea of any of this for a while because I'll get to that probably sometime. But so yeah, so that kind of latched on to me, and like as a kid, like I don't know, I drew a lot, and basically the start of my drawing was probably like first, second grade, drawing cool stuff like Sonic and like Dragon Ball Z characters, like tracing them and like beefy ass Dragon Ball Z characters and like Captain America beefy as fuck. Excuse me. But um, you know, eventually I started drawing, like girls and stuff. It'd be like the YMCA, like my aftercare programs, like with my sketchbook. I remember I had this friend named Austin, and I would draw girls and like show it to him and be like, "Is this girl hot?" And something like that. He'd be like, "Dude, she's so hot." Like I was so totally in love with his sister. She was so pretty. Oh my god, she was gorgeous. Ah! I thought she was the cutest, and she just radiated. Like when I was a kid, like I don't know, I was so deeply like into like ladies, but for different like for reasons of like just they're radiant, like they were so radiant, and like or some of them, like some of them, the ones that I was into, like I felt like I was just enamored with like their like it's hard to explain. It was just this very visceral thing. It's like it was my first courtship with like the how the universe could manifest into something with such a form, with so I don't know, it's such like a beautiful or yeah. Like how could the like anyway? So anyway, so yeah, I was really enamored, and anyway, so I had a lot of guilt because I watched porn and like I like looked at porn because there was pictures back then. Like I would feel really bad about it, and especially if I got beat for it. My parents stripped me down naked, and my mom was crying that day, and she said I was gonna turn out to be a pervert, and then she was crying. My mom stood me down upstairs in front of the computer, and they got the belt, and my dad turned it the other way around, not the leather side, and he just started spanking me like a couple times with it, a few times, and like I have little marks on my hips from it. It's not very nice, but like that's not how you deal with that, is it? I mean, I guess they didn't really understand like my dad's relationship with porn. Apparently, was that he was shown it when he was a kid, and he told his mom, or someone told his mom. And he was like, "I'm not into it." And that was it. Although, as an adult, I'm sorry, I'm just putting all this stuff about my parents. But as an adult, anyway, I'm not gonna. This is about me. I'm not gonna just dump all my parents' dirty laundry out there. So, well, it's about my life, but people connected to me, but mostly just from the point of view of my life. So, or my experience. So, yeah, and man, my life, I've had such a rich life. Like, this has been rich. And, but that really kind of messed me up. And I couldn't stop watching porn. Definitely not. And I would lie in bed and, like, I basically be in hell. It was awful. I thought God hated me and, like, all that stuff. And, I can't even tell you, like, the thoughts I've had. Like, the deep pits of, like, this dread. But yeah, so, so a lot of stuff's happened. I can't really tell you my whole life story because it's a long. I mean, I'm 24 years old, so. But what I can say is that, right now I feel, to get back to my first point in the first video, that I'm in the continuation, of course, of my spiritual journey, but a new place in my spiritual journey, and I've talked a lot about stuff that I don't really that's completely sidewinding, sidewinding from the topics that I actually wanted to talk about, and I've exhausted myself talking for 40 minutes about stuff that I don't really, that I mean is nice, but it's not relevant to where I am in the moment. Um, why do I always feel like I need to like first talk about like where I've been before I can talk about like where I am. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I have to bring all this to the table in order to say like talk about like how life is right now. Like I have to like have all of my past like put into like this perfect little, you know, um, I don't know, like bank tube, so I can make the transaction in order to get, my present as a, from the National Trust of Experience. Um, so maybe I need to stop that transaction. Maybe I don't know. That's not a really good analogy because there's no working outside of it. I'm partial to analogies that work functionally. Or you can say, oh, okay, well, in that case, I need to, I don't know, use a different transaction. So instead of using my past to get to my present, what do I do? Who else do I transact with? What else do I put into the bank too? Well, equal exchange, right? My past is worth more than my present is worth more than my past, isn't it? Worth more. I mean, I'm talking, in terms of like, if I were to make this into a currency, and I was a country, um, all the parts of me were country, all the temporal parts, that metaphysical, framework. If we're working from that, then all my temporal parts are a country, each of them, and each of them is a developing nation. And right now, my developing nation is maybe not a first world nation as it was when I was, 10, or a third world nation, which I don't really like because that's presuming like levels that are about better or worse rather than just different or different. So maybe they're all countries with their own. Maybe it's all fractalate. Let's say that, huh? Countries with their own histories. So every single one of the past is like it's its own country, and it has its own specific history, its own specific ideologies, its own specific religions, its own specific, government, its own specific government services, its own specific commerce sector, its own specific public sector. Yeah, you can say that, and I think that is nice. So, what I need to do is stay, if I, talking about these things, is to stay squarely in the country of now, the country of my present, wherever that country is, and talk in terms of the workings of this present country. Because even though there are global and international relations in politics, and there have been global wars, trades, etc. To be a Trump, to be the mouthpiece of Trump, America or the present first. So, not to bring him into his ideologies into something beautiful, but I mean, I don't know. No, it's not. That means I have to agree with his policies, and I don't necessarily agree with him. Although I don't neither disagree with him. It's just a matter of, I don't know. It's not really a matter of agreement or disagreement. I think it might be. It could be. It might be. but I don't feel like I'm knowledgeable or um, my like I don't know. How can I predict what the consequences will be? You can't. You can only you can't. I mean, you can probabilistically model something, um, especially based on history, especially on past and things. But there's always, I don't know. There's probably some mathematical, like Laplace's demon. There's probably some mathematical entity that stands in the midst of these surefire, you know, functions that arise out of examining, uh, historical um, activity that, um, or any system where you're like, well, this is definitely surely going to happen, where there's no mathematical theorem necessarily derived to back that up, or the theorem would have to be so complex and so variable intensive that to have to directly replicate the exact situation would be extremely ludicrous, and in terms of the amount of things that would have to be necessarily exactly the same, even though history repeats itself definitely. Um, I don't know by what mechanisms, but I'm starting to kind of understand a lot. So, not understand. I think I've been shown this idea of the law of attraction, and it's really odd to me. For me, like, I think right now I'm in a very interesting place because I'm processing a lot, right? Um, and it's so hard to talk about the present. The present is the most difficult thing to talk about. And that's necessarily why I don't talk about it, because there's so much stuff happening in the present for me, that it's just like overwhelming. Because the present really, I guess the present for me is like a million presents. Like the present is like this, like it's this long continuous. I don't even know that a good metaphor. Like it's just this long continuous length. The length is long continuous, isn't it? If it's greater than, yeah, greater than a certain number, you can call it long. Otherwise, you call it short. It's all subjective, of course, because if you're tiny, then an inch is going to be pretty damn long. If you're like a centimeter in stature, then you're gonna be like, oh my god, that is such a long distance. But it's relative. Sorry, I shouldn't say subjective. But yeah, it's relative. So, I don't know. It's just this quarter where things go on, where all of these things happen, and it's just my mind kind of piecing things together and putting together this puzzle of these things that I'm contemplating, or considering, or these curiosities that I have, or this whatever it is that I'm seeking or going towards. So whenever I can't say I'm in the present always, but it's more of like this, like I can't stop right now and tell you exactly what, like you can't stop a program, a process, from finishing its thing and then say, oh, I mean you could you're talking about programming, you could look at the program, and say, oh, this does that, 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 but because it's functional. I'm a functional creature, I suppose, right? And I'm gonna stop this and start another one.